So I saw this huge sum on Aave and was like, man, we have got to find a way to direct this to where it really matters. And so this vision comes together, and before we knew it, we'd written a blog, just 2 pages. I published it, and honestly, I forgot about it for a week. And then Binance contacted me, a guy called Samy, Karim. And Sammy's like,
I love this story.
Hey, I want to chat to you. Are you building this? And I was like, honestly, no. It was an idea. I mean, I have a lot of ideas. So
Yeah.
why? Do you think it's a good idea? It's like, yeah, this is where DeFi needs to go. This is good stuff. And I was like, okay, well, okay, Binance likes it. But does TradFi like it? Do the infrastructure developers like it? Are any of them actually willing to use crypto to finance an infrastructure projects?
Hey, what's good, ReFi Nation? Got a bonus episode here as we prepare to launch season 3 with a friend of mine, Ben Sheppard from Silta Finance. Ben was introduced to me by David Rodriguez of Draft Ventures. He is a serial entrepreneur on his 4th venture, building a DeFi protocol that bridges the gap between large-scale infrastructure projects, doing sustainable renewable energy, utility grid, microgrid, everything within the spectrum for sources of capital on both the traditional finance side and the decentralized finance side. They describe themselves as a due diligence protocol and have a really interesting pragmatic take on how we can scale sustainable infrastructure all over the world, as small as 5 million all the way up to 50 million and beyond, creating unique due diligence processes for each and really instilling confidence in the lending side of the market, who has huge amounts of capital at disposal and is looking for projects in emerging markets all over the world to finance. So if you are new to infrastructure finance and are looking at real world assets on chain, this is a massive market opportunity, as you'll hear from Ben in a second. And I hope you enjoy this episode. If you do, please subscribe, share with anyone who you might find resonant with this story, and let us know what you think. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you on the other side. Hey, what's going on, Ben? Welcome to the show.
Hi, John. How you doing?
Doing well, man. It's a sunny day here in Portugal. It's cold, but anytime the sun is shining, I'm in a good place. And yeah, excited to dive into what you guys are doing at Silta. I remember David Rodriguez was the first one who told me about what you guys are doing. And I remember our first conversation, and it seems like you guys have made some serious progress since we last spoke. So why don't you give listeners just a quick overview of what you're up to at Silta, and then we can dive into a bit of your story, how you got here, and see where the conversation unfolds. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds great. I forgot you're over in Portugal, actually. I'm in Barcelona, and it's pretty fresh here today. There's a bit of snow on the mountains just nearby. So
awesome.
Yeah, having just moved from Finland to here in the summer, it's like, oh, it followed us. The cold weather.
The momentary cold.
Yeah, absolutely. But at least we've got all the winter gear ready for it if it gets worse. So.
You brought your Finnish winter gear to Barcelona. That was brave.
Absolutely. Mate, I've got ice running shoes. At one point I was running in minus 15 degrees outside in Finland with these spiky shoes digging into the ground. Yeah, it's pretty fierce, the winters over there. So
I don't know how you coped. I don't know how you coped, man. But Glad you're on the other side in the warmer weather. So yeah, man, what are you up to at Silta, for those who don't know what you guys are doing?
Yeah, sure. So Silta is the Finnish word for bridge. Basically we're trying to bridge the world of sustainable infrastructure, so renewable energy and utilities and so on, with DeFi and TradFi. So we're trying to drive finance towards sustainable infrastructure. We sort of do this in 3 ways. So the first thing is we bring due diligence on chain. So we're first and foremost a due diligence protocol. So we want to take the complicated part out of understanding sort of the risks around a particular infrastructure project and make it easier for financiers to look at a project and decide whether this is something they want to participate in. We then also want to create an environment where renewable energy projects, utility projects have multiple opportunities for financing. Instead of being they're sort of struggling to find financiers, actually they've just got lots available to them from TradFi, from DeFi, which is the way it should be round. It shouldn't be that they're scrabbling trying to find these. It should be that, you know, there's lots of opportunities for them. And then the final part is we monitor those infrastructure projects as they move through construction and operations of their assets. So we make sure the borrower doesn't disappear off into the sunset with the loan, and likewise we make sure that that loan gets repaid, and we make it possible for financiers to actually see on a periodic basis updates that happen into a project. Like, it was a field, now there's some construction, now there's some more construction. Oh, now there's a microgrid. Oh, now there's these families with lighting in their homes and you know, access to the internet and, you know, all of this good stuff. So it's diligence, finance in marketplace, and monitoring is essentially what Silta does.
Amazing, man. Yeah, it seems a really massive opportunity. Just quickly, like, what is the size of this market that you guys are talking about here around sustainable infrastructure?
I mean, the infrastructure market as a whole is something like a $2 or $3 trillion market. It's absolutely huge. And it's got an annual funding gap of $350 billion US dollars. So World Bank and IFC together fund about, I think it's about $32 billion US dollars worth of projects per annum. Okay. Silta at scale is trying to target around 3 billion per annum. So, you know, about 9–10% of what an IFC does, but less than 1% of what's available in the market. I mean, it's just humongous, this market.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huge. And where did you come up with this insight about building a bridge to bring in TradFi and DeFi into this sustainable infrastructure market? Like, how did you arrive on this insight? I
guess like with many founders, you have that epiphany moment.
That's the moment I'm talking about. Where did that happen?
On a metro, drinking a coffee. It was a very cold morning on the way into Helsinki. And I think I was reading crypto news somewhere, and I saw that Aave had, at the time, $6 billion US dollars of TVL. I was like, $6 billion US dollars. That is a lot of money. Like, how is that
for a
being
piece of
used?
Software that nobody is actually doing anything?
So I was like, wow, 6 billion. You could do so much with that. And like, my wife is Filipina. I've lived in the Philippines for 5 years. I lived in Vietnam for 2 years. So emerging markets are very close to my heart, and trying to make an impact in those markets is close to my heart. So I've always got in my mind, like, how can we somehow support these markets further? So I saw this huge sum on Aave and was like, man, we have got to find a way to direct this to where it really matters. And so this sort of vision comes together, and then I called two of my ex-colleagues, so James Cook, a finance guy that was at EY, and Stanley Boots, one of the co-founders, a PPP lawyer, and I'm like, James, what do you think about trying to use decentralized finance to build infrastructure? And the first thing he said was, what's decentralized finance? I was like, this is going to be a long conversation.
How much time have you got?
Stanley, on the other hand, was familiar with it already. And so anyway, I got them up to speed, and before we knew it, we'd written a blog, just 2 pages. I published it. And honestly, I forgot about it for a week. And then Binance contacted me, a guy called Samy Karim. Yeah.
No way, that's hilarious.
And Sammy's like,
I love his story.
Hey, I want to chat to you. Are you building this? And I was like, honestly, no. It was an idea. I mean, I have a lot of ideas. So why? Do you think it's a good idea? It's like, yeah, this is where DeFi needs to go. This is good stuff. And I was like, okay, well, okay, Binance likes it, but does TradFi like it? Do the infrastructure developers like it? Are any of them actually willing to use crypto to finance an infrastructure project? So I was like, right, I need to find out. So I called some of my former clients in the Philippines. Stan called some of his around Southeast Asia. James spoke to Dubai government and a few major contractors around there. And there was a consistent message, and that was, if you can make it easier and faster to access finance, and the interest rates aren't higher than what we're already having to pay, then absolutely we will look at this seriously. And the way that project finance works today, the diligence process that banks go through to kind of decide whether a deal is viable or not, that diligence process can take forever. So I'll give you an example. The last deal I did before moving into Web3 at the back end of 2016 was a $400 million expressway bridge connecting 2 islands in the Philippines. We did DD on that for the banks that took well over a year. I think the other one that I was working on in parallel, the DD on that took 4 years. So 4 years to raise debt to build a project. So the developers already won it from the government. It's their project. It's ready to go. Then they've got to raise the capital. 4 years to raise it. Stanley worked on one. It took 8 years to reach financial close. So that's 8 years of due diligence. That's 8 years of lawyers, finance people, engineers arguing with one another on different sides of the table, trying to unpick a deal, all paid on a time and materials basis. It's not in anyone's interest to go fast. Everyone recreating everything. And I was one of them. I was one of them. So we knew that there was a big issue with diligence. We knew that there was a big issue with trying to get faster access to finance. And when you scale that down to projects that need debt of less than 50 million US dollars, this gets really problematic. So you get a small project that goes through archaic due diligence procedures. The cost of capital for them then becomes a problem. Like, it starts to show that the project isn't viable anymore.
Prohibitive.
Yeah. But then coupled with that, the bank has a finite number of resources that can review these things. So do they want to review 50 small projects or 5 humongous projects and just get the 5 done? Like, what are they going to go with? Well, they're going to go for the bigger ones, get it done. And then the small ones just never see the light of day. So there's a lot of actually very amazing projects out there that never see the light of day because there just isn't enough bandwidth for everyone to do, the work that needs to be done. So this is where this idea for Silta came about. Like, well, we need to change this up because, the world is in a difficult place. Like, we have real climate change issues. People don't have access to clean energy. People don't have access to energy in some emerging markets. They don't have internet, so they can't get a decent education. They don't have access to clean water. Don't have that much access to clean water in Barcelona, to be honest. But it's like, even in emerging markets, it's like a real problem. And if I go out to some of the islands of Palawan and I see how they live, it's just not right that people in this day and age don't have their basic needs taken care of. It just should be a given that everyone has their basic needs taken care of. And so this is where we got really passionate in Silta about, well, how can we make that happen? Like, no more relying on government. I don't have a big problem with government personally. I'm not pointing the finger at them. They're one institution that's trying to do things at whatever pace they can do it. But there's a hell of a lot of us that aren't in government that also need to be the change agent for this stuff. And things like Silta, we hope, can sort of act as that change agent by putting people in a position where they can drive what projects get through DD, what projects get financed, actually actively participate in financing them and make that real world change happen. So this is what we're trying to achieve through Silta.
Super cool. And maybe we can dive a layer deeper into how you're doing this on the due diligence side, because you obviously laid out the 3 parts of your business: the due diligence, the marketplace, and then the monitoring. So what does it actually look like? What is your alternative to the current super slow, cumbersome due diligence process? And what role does Web3 play in that, if any?
Yeah. So we've spent the last year and a half really working on that diligence piece. So we have a product called the Silta Score, and there's 3 versions of it. So the lightest version is a self-assessment verification tool. So basically there's a set number of questions that a infrastructure developer has to complete in a questionnaire. They have to provide access to a data room that then can be cross-checked against the responses that they've given. And someone in our community will then verify, yeah, this is all above board. They've answered the questions honestly, and here's a score. And this is something that can be churned out within a couple of weeks, and is minimal cost, because basically the borrower's not having to pay extensive fees to lots of transaction advisors. They're doing a lot of the work themselves.
Right.
This carries sort of the highest risk as well, because you are relying more on the borrower acting as a good actor and just doing some sort of higher level verification of what's in there. But we're of the opinion that for projects up to $5 million US, it kind of has to be a tool that's fit for purpose.
Sure.
And if this project is going to have a really strong sustainability impact, then this is something that we want to communicate through Silta Score that the likes of S&P or Moody's or someone else wouldn't elevate is quite so important. So this is what we try to do at the lowest level. We try to make it quick, fast. Yes, it carries risks, and we'll present that as well. It's a warts and all story, but it's all out there. The next level up is for deals worth between 5 million and 50 million, and we call that Silta Score Micro. So within that case, there's around, I think it's 250 data points that get analysed. So it's a 6 to 8 week process, depending on how organised the borrower is. There's a team of, I think it's 4 diligence officers with varying backgrounds that would come in, take the borrower through our Silta Score standard for doing the due diligence. At the end of it, produce a DD report. We also produce an exceptions report, which lists all the things that we didn't analyse as part of that diligence.
Interesting. Nice.
So it's the warts and all. And then we also have an impact score. So what is the impact that this project is promising to deliver? So I'll give you an example. We've almost finished our first DD on a $14 million solar microgrid project in the Philippines that will give access to energy to 40,000 Filipinos across a few different islands. And it's going to heavily reduce the reliance on diesel. So a massive social impact to that community of Filipinos. So things like that.
Is that the one that's on the website, the Archipelago Renewables?
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. So We Energy is the parent company. Yeah. So you can actually see it on our DApp if people want to hop in there. So that project, huge impact. It's going to make a real difference to people's lives. This is the sort of thing that we want to get behind. We also believe our community wants to get behind. And we want to present this to the world to say, hey, TradFi lenders, DeFi protocols, this is an opportunity. We've done the diligence. These are the risks, but come and take a look. And if you want to get involved, then we'll connect you through the marketplace. At the highest level of diligence, we have Silta Score Institutional. So this has been designed for pension funds, insurance companies, investment banks. This is the stuff that Stanley, James, myself, others in the team have done as bread and butter work for over a decade. In my case, longer for those two guys. They're a bit grayer than me. Not as bald, but grayer. And basically, we've designed that with those guys in mind. And last year, we had the pleasure of being invited to Google HQ to present on a panel. It was a ReFi-focused event.
So cool.
And it was Ontario Pension Fund that were listening in, CIBC Bank, StepStone Fund, all sorts of big players that got very interested in, wow, if you guys can really accelerate this DD piece and kind of, present portfolios of projects to us of a size that works for them, then, this could be really exciting stuff.
Yeah.
So we're trying to have a DD process that's fit for purpose. So not this one size fits all anymore, but a size that fits up to 5 million, a size that fits up to 50 million, a size that fits above 50 million. And, you know, the amount of effort that goes into that, you know, is sort of in line with the size debt that these borrowers are trying to raise. So we're testing that now. We've got 3 borrowers that we're doing DD with. There's a small project in Brazil, which I think is 75K or 80K.
80K, yeah.
Yeah, 80K. So that's a project that we're just starting with CoSol. We've got one of the Philippines, and then there's a portfolio of $100 million of solar projects that we're looking at with UEnergy across Brazil and Colombia, and we're trying to work out if there's a way that we can do diligence on this big portfolio using Silta Score Institutional, and then be able to try and connect that with financiers. So this is something Eduardo and I are talking through at the moment.
Is that Unergy YC.finance? Is that the group you're talking about?
Yeah, Unergy.
You said?
Yeah.
Unergy,
yeah.
Cool. Amazing, man. Okay, so what is the actual debt instrument that people are buying? Is this an on-chain instrument? Is this off-chain? How do you access like the TradFi as well as the DeFi folks? And like, what is the asset itself? And, you know, because I don't see any interest or yields indicated here on any of these. Is, you know, you see it's senior debt and you see what the loan amount is in the 10-year period. But like, maybe let's talk more about the asset itself.
Yeah, sure. So this is where we're a little bit different in Silta. So when I had that epiphany moment all that while ago, what struck me was I didn't want to go out and build loan pools for Silta itself. Rather, I wanted to tap the liquidity that these more mature DeFi protocols already have. And I want to help those DeFi protocols and their lenders access a new line of investment opportunities. So actually really play on that composability piece that we all were passionate about in Web3. How can we work together? So the likes of Goldfinch, Centrifuge, TradFi, CredX, Maple, Aave, Maker, all of those guys for us are DeFi protocols that we can partner with to tap liquidity to finance deals. And because these deals get really big in some cases, the 100 million one, for example, you know, you're going to have to tap liquidity from multiple sources. So even in TradFi on the major projects, you would have a syndicate of banks that finance a deal, and one bank acts as the lead. So the last one I did, which was the 400 million, I think there was 8 banks involved, with HSB acting as the lead. So what we sort of see is that in our projects, we want to tap the DeFi protocols for the liquidity that they have, but we also want to tap TradFi. So we want to be able to present these opportunities to the family offices. We want to present it to the foundations, to the banks if they're interested, and Silta to sort of act as that piece in the middle that brings it all together. Nice. So that this huge liquidity pool is then available to these projects. So I don't know if you've seen it, but in the UK, there's like these credit card sites, isn't there, where you go on, you look for the best credit card, and there's like this list of all these credit cards. Like, you've got so many opportunities to get credit. That's how we want these projects to feel. They go to the marketplace and see all of these different options for getting finance so that they can build their sustainable projects. That's the situation we want to be in. What we have introduced as well, which I think is really important given what's happened, particularly over the last 6 months, is we actually pre-qual the financiers as well. So we will do diligence on the financiers as well, so that the borrowers actually have some confidence that the financiers are who they say they are, that are above board, and so on and so forth. So it's two-way diligence, and we're that diligence protocol bringing that all together. So we won't have we haven't envisaged having loan pools as things currently stand. It's more about working with others. So Centrifuge and Goldfinch, we're in a discussion with at the moment on, you know, how can we work together to finance a deal. So the loan pools would originate on their protocols. The debt would be raised, and it would be pulled together into a single loan product that's then given over to the borrower. And basically, what people are investing into is the asset. So 16 mini grids in the Philippines that are getting built. Once they're operational, the revenues that come in from that are used to service the debt that's owed. Okay. And what's beautiful about that is crypto winters are not going to affect that interest rate. They're not going to affect that debt. And totally. Even when we were in, we still are in a sort of economic crisis. People still drink water. People still need electricity. These things continue to pay debts, and that's why pension funds and insurance companies love these things, because very, very strong tolerance to lots of different market conditions. So if we can open that up to retail through these DeFi protocol partners. In DeFi, I think that's beautiful, because 100%. I would love to invest in that sort of project.
I'm thinking the same thing. Like I saw the Brazil one today, and I was like, okay, all right, this is cool. Like, let's talk to Ben and figure out what these are. So, because I'm a little bit naive on some of these terms, I might ask some kind of beginner questions. But if, let's say, I'm going, obviously there's the DeFi protocol, which is going to provide the liquidity. But there's going to be money coming from a DeFi protocol into this loan product. Does the DeFi protocol then get some ERC20 tokens in exchange for their USDC, say, and those could then be tradable on a secondary market? Or are those like non-transferable? You're holding on to this, you've got this debt, and it's going to pay out over a 10-year period. You're kind of stuck with it. Like, what's the kind of, what is the asset people are actually holding in their wallets on chain? And what are the features there?
It really depends on the DeFi protocol that you use to make your investment. So I think, on Goldfinch, they've already got curve pools set up so people can sort of trade on a secondary market some of their tokens. So depending on the functionality of the DeFi protocol partner, then you might be able to trade the tokens early and liquidate. Maybe you can stake them and draw down debt against them. Maybe, one really interesting thing that came out at the Google event was these stable coins, the algorithmic ones, have been bouncing up and down like yo-yos, and we need to find a way to sort of level that out, because it's meant to be stable. Well, a security token that's come as a result of investing in a 10-year infrastructure project that is very steady makes for a beautiful thing to go in the treasury behind a stable coin project, because they don't fluctuate, they don't go anywhere, they're there for the long term. So if we want to prop up these stable coins, then this is the sort of thing that those projects can invest into and just hold in the treasury and have a constant cycle of them.
Absolutely.
In some cases, the borrowers that take on the debt will want to refinance the project after the construction element is finished. So there could also be opportunities to exit after the construction, which is the highest risk part of the borrower's sort of life cycle. But I think as we see securities laws mature and and sort of DeFi move to, I guess it's DeFi 3.0 is coming next, I guess. I hope
3.0 is the Ponzi land.
Exactly. I think we'll see a lot more functionality come about, and this just makes the whole thing even more exciting.
Really interesting. And you touched on the kind of compliance side of the equation here, and using the word securities. Like, how is this factored into your equation? There's multiple nation states in which these projects are being originated. How do you guys pull this piece off in a way that satisfies both the TradFi, the DeFi, and obviously like the bigger institutional lenders?
Yeah, so I mean, everyone has to go through KYC and AML, regardless of whether they're a borrower, financier, or a lender into a DeFi protocol partner's loan pool. But we do far deeper checks than what some of the apps provide as well, because it's kind of what we do. Diligence protocols. So we go far deeper into that, and there will be limitations on who who can sort of invest in different pools to finance different projects.
Okay, interesting.
And there will be certain jurisdictions where, we can't do projects as well. So there will be limitations on some of that. But for the main, at least at the moment, the majority of our portfolio is in Southeast Asia, South America, GCC, and a couple in Europe. And all of those are sort of, thumbs up to work with. So
super cool, man. I recognize we've kind of gone a little bit deeper into some areas on the kind of marketplace side. Maybe we switch gears to the third piece of the protocol, which is the monitoring. So maybe lay out in a similar fashion how it works today, and both in terms of operationally and like the cost of this operation, and then we can talk about how you guys are doing it differently and what are the kind of core features of your protocol on the monitoring side.
Sure. The way it's done today is a project is financed, and basically on a periodic basis, you would have someone submit updates to the bank as to the progress that's being made on a particular project. So, is construction going to schedule? Are they burning the cash as was intended in the financial model? Audits of receipts of different activities that are going on, just making sure that money is going to last and it's going to serve its purpose, and there isn't any anomalies happening in that. So you get those reports first.
But just quickly, are those financial transactions happening off-chain and somebody's monitoring the off-chain receipts and all of that? Okay, so none of that is on-chain, right? Okay.
None of that's on-chain, because at this point, the developers receive the funds, they've put it back into fiat, it's in a bank account, they're paying contractors to do work. Okay. So if you tried to bring all of that on-chain right now, it would just be too difficult.
It wouldn't work. But like long term, you could imagine as more and more people are getting on-chain, you'd have even easier job of doing that monitoring because all of the transactions are publicly verifiable. Okay, so you've got these this kind of cash flow monitoring to make sure that it's going according to schedule, being spent on what they said they would, et cetera. Keep going.
Yeah. And then the operations side of it is, once the asset's built, do you have the level of customers that you thought you were going to have using the asset? Is the revenue high enough to service the debt? Is it continuing to grow as intended? Is the asset operating as intended? Is it available as it was intended? Or has for some reason it not working that way? So these are the things that we monitor. So what we start to bring on chain is in the first diligence piece. Once we've scored a borrower and we've created this due diligence report, we mint this into an NFT. So it's there on chain. You can't tamper with it, because that does happen. Credit scores get tampered with, results get tampered with. So we bring this on chain. It's fixed then. It's all there. People can view it. And that was the score. Once we get into the monitoring side of it, we're going to use a dynamic NFT that we've been discussing with Chainlink. And basically, as those reports come in and as those updates come in, we're going to start to capture certain elements of that information within this dynamic NFT. And you'll be able to see the progress on a periodic basis that's occurring at the construction side and then the operations side. And there will be some real-time links in there as well. So
super interesting.
The Philippines outfit has a sort of headquarters in Palawan, and through an app you can view in real time the amount of energy that's being produced, the number of users, all sorts of information. So this would be
so cool.
Some of the data.
This is so awesome.
That would feed
that you can access through this dynamic NFT. Wow, really powerful.
So you as a lender through a DeFi protocol could then come to Silta, look at the project portal page and see all these updates of how the asset is performing. And you would then see firsthand, is it going great? Is it not? What's going on? And so on and so forth. So it's it's an iterative process, isn't it? You've got to bring things on bit by bit into the Web3 world. If you try to do it all on day one, it just breaks.
Of course. So you try and do too much
slowly. Yeah.
Definitely. So maybe help me understand how this works in the current setup without your guys' infrastructure. Like, what level of monitoring is available to these financiers, and who's actually doing it, that kind of stuff. Just curious to see what the existing alternative is.
Depending on the size deal, determines a lot on the kind of oversight. So on the bigger deals that I was involved with, you'd have an owner's engineer based on site, full time, checking drawings of assets, sending reports to the lender's engineer, who then check on a more periodic basis. It's a full time job.
Yep.
On the smaller projects, it's not so much like that. It's kind of periodic checks, people coming in and looking for certain things. What we're trying to do with our solution is use the community a bit to do some of this. So particularly on those high impact projects. So if you've got 40,000 Filipinos that are relying on this solar microgrid project to give them access to renewable energy, it's in their best interest that this thing
to
gets
keep
built.
it on track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what better way than to go and say to them, hey, if you want to act as a project monitoring officer and send us periodic reports, we'll pay you fees for doing that. So we'll pay you stablecoin fees. We'll give you bonuses and Silta tokens for actually monitoring this developer, providing us photographic evidence that the thing's being built. And then for the more tricky stuff like monitoring of the financial accounts, we might have a specialist or bookkeeper or someone go in and sort of investigate that. So we're trying to build it in a way that the community is involved from the outset and has an interest in seeing the success of these projects. Yeah. And even with the due diligence advisors, the Silta scoring committee and the project monitoring officers, basically these three groups that take a project cradle to grave. Yes, they get paid a fee in stable coins as they do the work, but they get bonuses in Silta tokens if a project doesn't default, if a project services the loan, and if a project delivers on the sustainability impact. So everyone gets the big hopeful upside if these projects deliver on what they set out to do. And we track all of that through these different parties.
And touching on to the Silta token, what is the utility of that token? And who are the kind of core recipients? What role does it play in the protocol?
Yeah, so Silta token is a governance and access token.
Governance and access, okay.
Yeah, so you have to have Silta tokens to access the paid features within the protocol. So if you're a borrower and you want to go through diligence, you'd have to basically lock some Silta tokens in there. If you're a financier that wants to view the marketplace and access the opportunities, you have to lock the Silta tokens in there. If you're a diligence advisor, or a Silta scoring committee member, or a project monitoring officer, you also have to lock your tokens in there and then submit credentials. We then charge fees to the borrower for the diligence activity, for the loan coming together, and for the monitoring. We then basically disseminate those funds that are coming in to the different actors that are undertaking these important diligence activities for us, and we also put some of it towards the Silta treasury and some of it towards other pieces. But then these Silta tokens get paid out periodically as certain milestones are met. So holding that Silta token gives you the opportunity to access the protocol and do physical work as part of the community, but it also then gives you the opportunity to be involved in the governance. So you drive the direction of the protocol. So version 1 of Silta is all about infrastructure finance. Version 2 of Silta, once with the tokens out and the community involved, they could start adding other things to that. Maybe they want to look at micro loans for fisher folk that need to access debt so they can buy gas to go out and do their fishing activities. Maybe there's other things that get added. And this is where Silta can, in my eyes, or in my head at least, this is where Silta can really take off. It's all about making an impact in the world. It's all about sustainability. And what are the different ways to do that? There's these heavy infrastructures we finance, but then there's the microfinance guys. Maybe we have diligence people join the protocol, like, we know how to do diligence on this. We can add this string to the bow. Let's offer this as well, and really, try to make a difference in the world.
So just to repeat a few things on the token side, because I think this is where these kinds of projects get very interesting but also like I think where things can go wrong in the Web3 space. So I understand you use the word locked instead of staked. Are people what are they actually doing? Are they committing it into the, say I'm a borrower, I have to buy a certain amount of Silta tokens to access the protocol. Am I staking this such that those tokens are at risk if I do something wrong, or am I just locking it and then that gives me temporary access as long as it's locked, but I can withdraw at any time? So are these tokens at risk?
For bad actors, yes, they're at risk.
Okay.
So they may lose their tokens that have been staked.
Be slashed. So be slashing. Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I think that's the right play.
But what we're also keen to do is have these actors staked in the protocol for the duration of the whole loan tenor.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
Yes, they're going to get fees out through stablecoins for the work that they've done. Yes, they're going to get bonuses and Silta tokens if things are met, but they have to see the journey all the way through. They have to back up what they've gone with. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting model because of the duration of the loan period. Because you guys are basically introducing into this very volatile but highly liquid DeFi market an asset that's inversely correlated to everything else out there. And it has a level of stability that others don't, but also just the investment horizon. You're talking 10-year. That's multiple market cycles in the crypto space, which, I think as you mentioned, if these assets really are becoming an underpinning of the stable assets and other, DeFi protocols, it will provide a level of grounding and stability that the Web3 space desperately needs, to endure and build lasting value. So I think this is a very interesting kind of macro contribution into the space. Maybe we just take a bit of a step back for,
can I ask you a quick question? Do you have a pension?
I do.
What is it, through a bank? Is it?
Yeah, it's Vanguard. Yeah.
Okay, so you put into your pension, I guess, on a regular basis. You've got a broker that's taking a fee there. In the current market, just like mine, probably not making any interest. It might have even gone backwards in value because of what's going on. So when I look at Web3, when I look at crypto, and I think, okay, I have majority of my wealth in Web3. Fortunately, I have an intelligent wife who keeps some of it in real estate as well, but majority of it in Web3.
Yes.
Now, if I'm going to keep it all in Web3, how much of that do I want to put in highly volatile products? How much of that do I want in sort of medium risk products? And how much of that do I want in something that's low risk, reasonable interest rates, and is going to be there for a longer period of time? And so particularly with what's happened in the last 12 months, I started to think, I think there's more and more people joining the Web3 space, joining the crypto space. And if we're all going to keep so much finance in there, we need to start thinking intelligently about how we segregate that risk.
Diversify your portfolio. Totally.
Exactly.
Diversification of risk. Yeah.
So putting some of it in, a project that has a 10-year tenor, when I'm someone like me who likes to spend, actually having it locked in there is probably a good thing, because it means I can't go and spend it on a holiday or whatever else. And so I'm starting to grow
or
that
on an altcoin, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever it might be. So I think this brings a whole new opportunity to people in crypto to, no one wants to lose all their money. Yes, people want a massive upside, but no one wanted to lose all their money. So if you can have it in products that are, lower yields, but still reasonable, like 6, 7, 8, 10% is not a bad yield. That is still a good yield.
Totally.
So
especially once interest rates back and normalize, it'll be like, oh, that's awesome. I'll take that.
Exactly, yeah. So this is what we're trying to bring to Web3 as well, just better opportunities for people to consider through our DeFi protocol partners. So, yeah.
Yeah, really interested. So I want to talk a little bit of the kind of big picture and the trends you guys are seeing, as well as to say, what can people do to get involved? But before that, just want to put the black hat on and say, where have you identified things can go wrong in this system? I think the black swan events of the recent past in the crypto space have left a very dark mark in consumer and investor sentiment all across the board. And I think it's, for me, just reiterated the importance of really doing effective scenario modeling and looking at this as a complex system and identifying, okay, like where are all the attack vectors of this system?
Yeah.
So just curious to understand how you guys have put this risk mitigation hat on and make sure you have a really robust and resilient system.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking what's happened in the last 12 months, but it doesn't surprise me. There's so many people trying to cut corners. There's so many bad actors in the space as well. And, just picking the right VC is an important thing to do as well, in my opinion. So, we're very lucky with the ones that we've got in Silta, but, we do our own due diligence on who we want to work with. In terms of Silta and what are the attack vectors and where can things go wrong? We've done sensitivity analysis on a few different areas to see what would happen if this and what would happen if that. One thing that we got feedback on from not a DeFi project, it was it was a DAO anyway. So we presented the opportunity to them, and they said, you know what we really like about Silta? I'm like, go on. Well, on Aave, all the funds are just locked up and they're right there waiting to be hacked by someone. But in Silta, they're not, because actually they come out, they go into the real world, they're given to the borrower.
Super interesting.
So the opportunity,
not just constant living bounty. Very fascinating. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned this. Yeah.
So it's not there the whole time. So the attack threat is very minimal in terms of when someone can come in and try and do that. Obviously,
especially if the bond asset itself is like non-transferable. It's like, hey, you bought this, it's in your wallet, it can't be taken from you. Like that's a really interesting piece. Okay, keep rolling. Yeah.
So this is some of the things that we looked at. Obviously, trying to make sure that eligible money is used in the loan pools is important. So KYC and AML checks. Making sure that the borrowers don't disappear into the sunset. So we had one borrower come to us and was asking for $3.2 billion for a solar project in Cotabato, like a southern pirate area of the Philippines that I've been to. And I was like, this this sounds a bit suspicious. So, just making sure that the sorts of borrowers that come to the protocol as well are good actors. So, as a sort of diligence-focused protocol, these are the things that we focus on, whereas others are perhaps more focused on other important elements to their protocol, like getting the deals done or getting something financed. For us, to some extent, if we had 10 deals that came in and they were all bad deals and we said they were all bad deals, we would rather say they were all bad deals and be transparent about that than try 100%. And push them through and say, need to get a deal done. Well, that wouldn't be in our best interest as a diligence protocol. Nice. So we've sort of, when we work with different partners, we say this to them, it's like, we're going to be very honest in what we do. Yes, we want to make a difference in the world. Yes, we want a strong sustainability impact, but we're not going to hide anything. It's going to be right out there, the warts and all story. And we will then let people decide for themselves what they want to do. Is this something they want to be a part of? And that's better than the current situation where people don't even get a say because the projects don't see the light of day through the diligence. S&P will say anything below a BBB rating is not investment grade. That doesn't mean it's a bad project. It just doesn't mean that in your eyes it's investment grade. But it's investable, it carries risks, and people need to make their own decisions on that. Because the ones you said that were investment grade, well, that toll road didn't do too well in COVID, nor did that airport, and nor did that railway. So what's investment grade now?
For sure. Man. So I think there's a few things I'm excited about in what you're doing and want to ask how people can get involved who are also resonating. I think this idea of like a diligence protocol on chain is really fascinating. I think in general, the Web3 culture is very, as they say, apey, just like jump into things and see what happens. But we've seen the consequence of that and the cultural ramifications of building companies in this way. And I think the good hard trenches of diligence is a skill and an art, and it's very labor and time intensive. And I think if Silta is able to create a shining example of this for infrastructure projects, I'd be really excited to see, who else takes this and runs with it and kind of demonstrates the power of transparency for other purposes, other than just financial transactions on a public ledger itself. I think the other piece is just the inversely correlated assets. This is really exciting. And then the last is like seeing the impact of money on the ground in emerging markets for people who have frankly done little to nothing to cause this climate catastrophe and very much deserve all the same opportunities that everyone else around the world has had. And I think this is a really cool turning point in the crypto story. I'd be curious to get your take. Like, what are you sensing the macro picture? Are we still in crypto winter? Are we coming out of it? Like, where are we at with this? And how do you guys fit into it?
I mean, based on the last 3 weeks since I've been back after Christmas, I'd say we're in spring. Things are looking really positive for Silta. Yep. We're speaking to several VCs at the moment. We've got VCs that funded earlier rounds that are interested in a new round. We've got projects that are coming towards the end of the DD piece, ready for the financing. Yesterday, in fact, I was with Max and Philip from Centrifuge, the co-founders.
I love those guys.
Here in Barcelona, we were talking about how can Centrifuge, Goldfinch, Silta all work together. Like, there's a real positive vibe that I'm feeling. So it's great being back. I mean, I was tired going into Christmas. That was a journey. But yeah, I've come back and it's like, this is coming together. This is okay. So I'm pretty buoyant, actually. And I think, there's opportunity for growth again. So
awesome.
One thing I'll add to that point you made earlier as well about the transparency is in Silta, right from the get-go, we've been very visible. All of the team members. We put a video out every week into Telegram. We also put them onto social media. It's not just me; it's different members of the team. And it wasn't everyone's cup of tea last year. Like, there was lots of people that wanted to be behind an NFT or another image. Didn't want to use their real names. But we were like, well, look, we're a diligence protocol. We can't then disguise ourselves and not be front and center. And now I think because we've done that for so long, people are like, okay, these guys have never hidden themselves from anyone. They've always been visible. They sadly have to see this face quite regularly. We've sort of been there from the outset. So, but yeah, if people want to get in touch, they can write to us at contact@Silta Finance or join our Telegram group or message us on Twitter at the Silta page. So we're pretty active there and always willing to chat to people, and hear what they're thinking about or tell them a bit more about the project. So.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Ben. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm super bullish about what you guys are doing. For those listening, this isn't investment advice or any of that. We're just two founders hanging out, talking about what we're passionate about, the intersection of sustainability and Web3. Thanks for your time, Ben, and really looking forward to getting to hang out in person, hopefully in the near future.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Cheers. All the best.
Peace.